So these guys are fantastic, Jose and Darren, thank you. And okay. And they're part of the team at CBRC that I get to work with every day. They're a smart, passionate, and talented bunch of queer men, and I find it a real privilege to have this role. And I feel a bit like a proud father today. So thanks everyone for joining us. For those of you who've been around a while, you'll remember that a few years ago, CBRC, at a summit like this, made a commitment to truth and reconciliation. In particular, we committed to the 9 calls to action related to health. These calls to action include acknowledging our role in the current state of Indigenous health, working with Indigenous people to establish measurable goals and identifiable gaps, affecting change within systems, increasing cultural competency, and the hiring and retention of more Indigenous people in health fields. So you can see we've got a lot of work to do. These days at CBRC, we call it our path or our journey toward truth and reconciliation. And that's changed because 3 years ago, I still thought truth and reconciliation was something you did once, you checked the box, and you moved on. And through working with Rocky and Bill and Florence and people like Kevin Barlow and our partners at the Metro Vancouver Aboriginal Executive, Harlan Pruden, Rodney Little Mustache, Dion Thavarj, and John Sillaboy, these people have taught me that truth and reconciliation is a journey. It's not a one-time act. And my journey started with the man I want to bring to the stage now, Rocky James. And I also want to introduce his mom, Florence, who's no stranger to the summit, and the elders, Bill White and Shane Point. Will you join me on the stage, please? I'm just going to chat a little bit more, and then I'll hand it over to you. So my journey started with Rocky James, and I had just started at CBRC, and I wanted to increase Indigenous participation at the summit. And I met with Rocky, and he explained to me that we didn't really have much to offer his people. He had attended previous summits, and he'd noted that there was a lack of intentional focus on Indigenous people. We were preaching white medicine to white people. And as my relationship with Rocky developed, so did my friendship with Bill White, who has taught me so much about Coast Salish culture and tradition, a rich story that's been mostly erased. When we invited Florence, Rocky's mother, to the summit program, we learned more about our friend Rocky and further deepened our understanding of not just where Rocky came from, but his heritage and his culture. And that's what I learned most so far on this journey, is that it's about relationships. And after 100 years of oppression and distrust, we need to repair those relationships, we need to strengthen them, and we need to cherish them. Which is what brought us to last year's Rites of Passage ceremony. It was CBRC's way of formally and intentionally inviting Two-Spirit and more broadly Indigenous people to be part of the summit. When we started this journey, we also committed to being accountable, to standing in front of you each year and reporting back on the work we've done, and I'm proud to say that we've accomplished a lot in this past year. From the extensive Sex Now consultation and the partnership between Harlan Pruden, Travis Salway, and Nathan Lachowski, which, by the way, led to our most inclusive Sex Now questionnaire and also resulted in the increased recruitment of Indigenous people into the survey. We're going to hear more about that this afternoon from Harlan Pruden's keynote. We also worked with Harlan and others to promote PrEP and reverse a long trend of only promoting PrEP to white people, especially once we realized that PrEP was covered for Indigenous people for many years before the rest of us. Truly a missed opportunity and another example of how we let our Indigenous partners down. We received a UBC grant to increase Indigenous participation at the summit, and I'm happy to say we have not just one, but several presentations, workshops, and a keynote who are all Two-Spirit people. For the first time, we've asked 2 elders to be a formal part of the summit, providing advice and support over the next 2 days. And finally, I'm excited to announce that after a couple days of strategic planning earlier in the week, CBRC emerged with 5 priorities. They're still draft because we want to consult further with our partners, but one of those 5 priorities is to continue engaging and strengthening our relationship with Indigenous and Two-Spirit people. And so what does that mean? It means we're not done. In fact, we're just getting started. And we're going to be looking at ways that we can continue to decolonize CBRC, not just our events and our surveys, but the entire organization. And I'm grateful that my colleague, my friend, my brother, Rocky James, is going to accompany us on that journey. Will you come give me a hug and teach these people a thing or two?
Good morning, all you beautiful people. It's a pleasure to be able to stand in front of the Health Summit again. And it's even a greater pleasure to review the rites of passage ceremony and the intention behind all of that activity. Since I started working with the BC Gay Men's Health Summit in 2010, I've worked diligently to foster an experience of reconciliation. Reconciliation is not only about the mental experience of reconciliation, it's about acknowledging two-spirit human beings and all of their diversity. It's about acknowledging the worldview that informs the way they navigate the various paths in their life. I have been raised by my Coast Salish mother and grandmothers to believe that my mental health and overall well-being is rooted in my understanding of who I am, where I come from, and what my Coast Salish purpose is. My purpose as a Coast Salish human being is to understand the connection and quality of relationships in my life. Asiem haitsevka quatst huai atana tamochs haitsevka huamoch mastimochs taslelwituth e saquamish e humathquium snadamad tani atl quakwakawak e atl nuchanoth snatsamat e adult tamoch quadst huai atana tamoch ta huilitzim katesi quantlin quiquatlum matski kakid simiamu Tsawasan and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations, occupied by the Vancouver Municipality, the Province of British Columbia, and the Government of Canada. Eintha Gotis e Simultan e Theustin. Respected ones, thank you. I would like to acknowledge the traditional territory. I would like to acknowledge the local tribes, the people of Musqueam, the people of Squamish and Tsleil-Waututh. I thank all of you, being as one thought, one mind. I would like to acknowledge my family from Musqueam, Squamish, and the Kwakwaka'wakw and Nuchanoth nations. Being as one thought, one mind, those who are thinking from one mind here on the land. I would like to acknowledge the traditional territory of the Huilitzim, Katesi, Kwantlen, Quiquatlum, Matski, Kakid, Simiamu, Tawasan, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations, occupied by the Municipality of Vancouver, the Province of British Columbia, and the Government of Canada. My English name is Rocky James. I am from the Coast Salish Nation. I am a member of the Penellican tribes located around the central Vancouver Island area. So, what really is a rites of passage about? A rites of passage is about access to resources. In traditional Coast Salish ways of being in a relationship, my access to health resources depends on my ability to analyze relationships. How have I nurtured my relationships with my elders in my own family? Do they nurture my health behavior in return? How have I nurtured my relationships with my elders from other lawn houses? Do they nurture my health behavior in return? If I was to walk into another tribal community, can I access medicine? Can I access mountain sheep wool? Can I pay back other people in my tribe with mountain sheep wool? Do I have access to rivers, oceans, and cedars to cleanse? Are the rivers and oceans clean? The environmental conditions of the rivers and oceans affect the condition of my spirit. My greatest medical moments happen when I have access to clean water. In my experiences of ill mental health, oppression, depression, and interaction with colonial health systems, I sometimes lose connection. The quality of my relationships are derogatory. I am minimized as a human being. My life becomes about the fight against myself within myself, the fight to stay alive as a two-spirit person, teenager struggling with suicidal ideation, as a two-spirit person living through substance abuse, as a two-spirit person in recovery from substance abuse, as a person living with mental health issues, as a two-spirit person experiencing minority stress. So why a rites of passage? So that people can have a very brief glimpse into how to design a policy environment that integrates the personal, social, and environmental worldviews of some two-spirit people. Why a rites of passage? As I mature across my own lifespan, how I answer the question, who am I, also matures. I learn how to handle conflict within my own family tree about my own traditional names. I learn how it informs conflict with neighboring tribes and families, which teaches me how to deliberate at a local, regional, provincial, and federal level. Who I am is political by nature. Participation in a rites of passage establishes connections and relationships. Some connections are surface level, where people have their first glimpse into Indigenous ways of knowing and being. Some connections are deep, like the relationship between myself, my elders, and Jody. Between Health Summit annual dates, we learn how to undo the way we see each other, the way we speak to each other, and the way we nurture interactions. And most importantly, how we change our organizational culture to integrate reconciliation. We are in an era of reconciliation where non-Indigenous people are open to Indigenous ways of knowing and being in the world, but still don't fully understand what that means. So why a rites of passage at the BC Gay Men's Health Summit? To create an atmosphere where everyone can learn to see each other through a higher state of mind. An atmosphere where people have the opportunity to participate in Indigenous culture. Experiences usually played defensively by Indigenous people, especially two-spirit people, people who experience discrimination by both their tribal communities and non-Indigenous communities. I can only speak from my own experience of culture, and as a Coast Salish person, I know that Coast Salish people recognize each other in the lawn house through complex ceremonies that involve song and dance, ceremonies that non-Indigenous people do not have the right to witness. Coast Salish people acknowledge the most vulnerable emotions an individual has to share through song, and they send this very individual song back to them, making the process of recognition highly spiritual, intellectual, and political. I will finish by quoting a politics of recognition. Often by the misrecognition of others, a person or a group of people can suffer real damage, real distortion. If the people or society around them mirror back to them a confining or demeaning or contemptible picture of themselves, non-recognition or misrecognition can inflict harm, can be a form of oppression, imprisoning one in a false, distorted, and reduced mode of being. In conclusion, a teaching from my mother that I hold very close to my heart is the following: the words that are coming out of your mouth is what the people has put in your heart. And with that, I would like to introduce my uncle from the Musqueam tribe, Shane Point.
This morning, I experienced my first entrance into an all-gender washroom. Of course, I come from a different time frame, and when I walked into the washroom, there was a wonderful young lady standing there, and I turned around and walked out to wait for her to come out of the washroom. And she comes out and she looks at me and she raises her eyebrows and rolls her eyes. Oof, what an experience. Wow. Wonderful people. Wonderful people, human beings. Hualmuch in our language, human being. Translates to human being from this earth. Tamuch is Mother Earth. Hualmuch is human being from this earth. We're all human beings from this earth, which brings me to the great Coast Salish word, Nutsamat. Nutsamat, my dear friends, my dear relatives, means simply, we are one. We are one. Nutsamat, one. Oneness. There is no two. Our family words, there are many of them that are genderless, which speaks to the respect of the individual regardless of choice in terms of gender. Tiwin, when I'm addressing my nephew, oh, Tiwin, he let me know, Harlan, Tiwin, it's genderless, means that he's my nephew or niece. So Tiwin, it's genderless. There are many words that are genderless, which I think is absolutely beautiful in our language. What I would like you all to do in the moment is to please stand up for a moment. Hold hands. Connection. Hold hands. Go across aisles. There. Awesome. Isalas Sali Sast Squalawin Isalis Sali Quam Thit Nut Sama my dear friends and relatives, my dear friends and relatives, I welcome you here this morning on behalf of all of the children from Musqueam, their parents, and their elected leadership. I welcome you here. In the chant, I'm asking the infinite to lift you up. Isalis Sali, simply for me, two-spirited. Natsa Isala, number two. Two, Sali, spirit. Isalis Sali. I'm asking the infinite to please lift you up, lift you up, lift you up, and make you strong in the great circle of Natsamat. We are all one. I welcome you here to this moment and to this time to do your best to learn over the next few days. I wish there were more people here who aren't two-spirited so they could learn and shed their ignorance of the beauty of who you truly are. Haitzapkasiam, Isalis Sili, Haichka, Saasqualawin, Titan, Haichka, Quam Thithala. Two-spirited people, you've lifted me up and you've made me stronger in the knowledge of the humanity of who we truly are as all human beings. Haitzapka, please sit for a moment. I want to say further to all of you, my friends and my relatives, I'm here today at the invitation of the organizers. It's a great honor and a privilege for me to know that this organization and you have accepted this gracious lady from our community. Theus is her name. This wonderful gentleman, Helimus. I grew up with him. I'm so proud of him and of my auntie today because they've been invited into your house. They've been invited into your house to lend the great compassion that they have in their hearts for all of you. You've invited them in. You've invited them in, please. My relatives who are here, my friends who are here, please accept them. Accept them as your auntie. Accept them as your uncle. Accept the knowledge and the experience they have to help you navigate your world, your life, your emotions. Being with them simply to sit for a while will open your hearts. Will open your hearts to your own compassion. Open your hearts to the ignorance, the accepted ignorance of those who don't accept you. They'll comfort you and they'll guide you. Bill White, all of my life, has been a mentor, has been a teacher, and has been an older brother to me, although there's times that he doesn't know that, but he is. It's his example moving through the world that has allowed me to be a better and stronger human being as a young man as a teenager, as a boy, and now at my advanced age. I met my auntie over the summer. What a privilege for me to listen to her accent, to listen to her fluency in our own language when she explains in Halkaminam. Means so much more to me. Gives me so much more strength to just be in her presence and listen to her voice. Listen to our language. That language is beautiful. So I want to say thank you to the organizers. I want to say thank you to all of you for accepting them into your house. Please, we all need aunties and uncles to help us to grow. Today, in closing, my friends and relatives, I'm stronger now than I was 10 minutes ago because I've been introduced to you. Heights Apkasiam, Isalis, Sili, two-spirited people, thank you, thank you, thank you. Have fun. As I was listening to my Tiwan, Rocky, and he's talking about learning the values, he forgot fun. They taught him to have fun too. So don't just be here and be serious. Have fun, because it's when you're having fun you learn the most. Are you going to have fun?
Yes.
Are you going to have fun?
Yes.
Me too.
Ai squail siam nasia ya. Hai tape akosik up namat koso I alla patana quail at the siaista salhuains itanamana itanat statiwan ato I hai tape. So a little protocol regarding how I'm going to speak to you, to thank you for being here, friends, relatives, guests. On this day, I thank you for gathering together to make the work come together as you're working together to bring good things for lives. The explanation I was asked to give you was, yesterday we talked it over. We had a late meeting, and the words came to me, and I'm a instructor of Coast Salish language. The dialect is Halkaminam. So I was receiving this word as they were asking me, and it's called Hualsak. And Hualsak is hoping to describe the feeling of who you are when in your English language, it doesn't quite meet mine, but you call it two-spirited, because you only have one spirit. But the emotion that I could describe to you is that you have mind, body, and spirit. And the one that I'm speaking to you about is your spiritual side. Your physical side is your body, how you treat it, how you feed it to keep strong. But the spiritual side gets neglected a lot of times. And that's the word that I came to. The other word I tried, my tongue was actually twisted when I tried to say Huasak. I couldn't do it. So I was trying to say two-spirited, but my tongue wouldn't let me. So, hualsak. So describing it, I'll explain to you the only way that I could see how that looks to you in English words is if you look at the northern lights up north and how it moves around, it doesn't just keep still. All the lights blend and they all change and they move around. Well, that's that word. So that way inside of you, you're going to have pain. So there will be pain to the movement of who you are, because it's not, in our words, it's called before the day can arrive. That's the squail, the tear is in the day as it's coming about to you. So the name that I gave you for the two-spirit means that's what's going to happen inside of you. So there's a movement, a motion, but there'll be pain as it's moving around. So just know that that's the word that best suits what you describe yourself as. And to me, that spirit has to be nurtured and nourished with important, valuable words, and even like a word like self-care, how you take care of yourself. Because if you study the Northern Lights, you'll see more than I do. I just see the action, the verb, the motion, and that's the word that I'm sharing with you today. So about your lives, as my son grew up, when he was born, I didn't plan that this is how he'll be and this is who he'll be. I'm on the opposite side saying, this is what we do for you when you do puberty rites, when you do your mask ceremony, because a mask ceremony, the one he takes part in, is a cleansing ceremony. And it can be for birth, death, marriage, and his own identity infilling. And so that he gets to experience what the family inherits. And actually my mother's grandmother and great-grandmother, they come from here, right where he described. You call it Stanley Park. That's where they originate from. So my mom is from the George family, and my great-grandma is from Nanaimo, and my other grandmother is from New Channels, Nitnat area, and my great-grandfathers are from Quamachin, Cowichan, BC. So all those links come into play when you talk about identity and what he's going to inherit. We can't make it up. He has to build a family tree, and we go 9 and 10, and we know it well enough. Okay, then we can follow. Then you speak to all the elders so that make sure that they know what we're about to do. And it takes 4 years to plan. Doesn't just happen in 1 year. You have elders to speak to advise them and let them know. So those are what happens to the land, and then the land connects us. So the history, the stories, the language, they all come to play in who you are. So that's who makes me what I am. So I'm a mommy, and I love you all. So just know that I'm sharing the spiritual side to you, for you to have an understanding what happens inside of your heart. Okay? I'd say thank you.
Dear friends and relatives, I'm so glad to be here. This is my third year here, I think. Thank you to Rocky and Jody for their great insight to consider moving with these energies, to consider moving with these teachings, to consider moving so that all of us might learn a new time and a new day. The old people told us that songs last forever, ceremonies last forever, talk lasts forever. When people come together with a good heart, that energy lasts forever. And Rocky and Jody are setting the stage. We thanked them last night. I just about cried when my relative Shane was speaking about our time in Nanaimo. My late brother's best friend. I have to switch now or I will cry. Because of this story, I'm from a different time, and this is just an intermission. I'm from a different time. In Victoria, there is a forested area that gay men went to a lot. This one man who was very tall, very, very tall. I won't tell you even his nickname because then you'll know. He was walking along, enjoying the forest and identifying the plants. He was listening for songs. And appearing before him was a person who was leaned over like this with no pants on. That person stood up and he looked at her. And he said, it's too bad I can't do this. Maybe I do. He said, "What are you doing in our forest?" He didn't tell us what she answered. And so my relative was wandering around out there somewhere. Anyway, that's it. CM, Siaya, dear friends and relatives, CM, that's Hualmo, dear friends of Western ancestry. I'm so pleased to be here today. Last night, we had a wonderful meeting with Florence, who I'm 70 years old now, and it's the first time I heard the term for gay men. Hualsak. Hualsak. I've been looking for that term for 20 years. It's not recorded in any history books at all. I was telling my amazing academic friend, Rocky, the Western academics who was researching amongst Salish people around the 1800s, 1900s, they were too shy to ask about men who sleep with men. They didn't want to know. So Barnett and et cetera, don't have this. I just want to say to you, I'm sorry I'm shifting. In preparation for this time again, I'm reminded of Chief Seattle around 1855, talking to Governor Stevens. And he was talking about the diseases that were sweeping throughout our territory and the Western people who had traveled, migrated to Seattle. Great diseases were sweeping through both territories. Chief Seattle said to Governor Stevens, "We may be brothers after all." He was talking about the great deaths amongst both communities. I was thinking about this when Newsweek, for example, published all the month-by-month victims of those who passed away from AIDS, and thought that, goodness, there is a darkness here that needs to be stopped. There's a darkness here that doesn't belong. And I was talking with my relative Shane last night. We were talking about the use of medicine, talking about the use of prayers, talking about focus, talking about the strength of songs to block darkness, because diabetes also sweeps through our communities. And we need to talk with ritual people about stopping that. The great gift of the LGBTQ, which is very long. I'm old, so I just use gay. So if I say gay, you add the rest. You can do that. Don't reject what I'm going to say, because it doesn't belong. The great gift of the gay community, you know, just like our people, our old people. Oh, every day they created songs, created ceremonies, created great talk to make everybody included, to protect, to surround, and to say, we love you. The old people belonged. They belonged to a different time and a different place. And when they spoke to young people, they said, you too belong. You too have a right to be here. You too can carry these gifts and pass it along, because we have a darkness that needs to be blocked. The commonality here is that the gay community has faced great oppression. And in order to survive, and that's why all of you are here, again, some of you from last year, is that you too have great power. You too are powerful. The gay community, out of necessity, is brilliant and strong and caring, and understands how to apply great truths for a new time and a new place. There's a sign here that says, please finish up. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Indians, please sit down.
So last night we had a pre-summit meeting just to sort of get the Truth and Reconciliation portion of the morning planned out, and we did it in my office, and the entire staff are outside trying to get ready for the summit, and we are hooting and hollering and giggling and having a really great time. So thank you all for you. Thanks, Shane, for the good advice on having fun. You certainly helped with that, so thank you. We're going to continue with our morning program, so I'm going to invite Darren and Jose to introduce the next presenter.